And we're live. Hi everyone, it's Ash here from FPL Hints, back with another edition of FPL Hints Live. As always, we'll review the game week that's gone and preview the game week ahead. Without further ado, let's get started. So, look, I can't sugarcoat this one. Game week 15 was not, well, game week 14, I beg your pardon, wasn't good for me at all. It was a complete fail, even though I'd scored the average matched the average, but the reality was that matching the average in game week 14 was the equivalent to a deep dark red arrow, and yeah, it wasn't great. And fortunately for me, I wasn't stuck with my transfers late on Saturday morning. I heard the news just in time about Foden not starting and also Haaland not starting. I know that some people who left it to the last few minutes, unfortunately, uh, got jammed with their transfers. In my instance, the one move that I was able to make was Foden out, Saka in, which was a net game in terms of points that I got. But yeah, it wasn't really that great because I'll just go for it now. In fact, so look, backline Gita and Gehi, who are very low owned. 15 points from them against Southampton in game week 15. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But then the reality was there were other high EO owned players who matched their scores, if not exceeded their scores. So yeah, that wasn't, it was all well and good them getting 15 points, but it wasn't enough. And then with the lunchtime kickoff with City and Leicester, only had Foden, Cancelo as my two players, and got the news about Foden. I thought, well, Foden to Saka would be a straightforward switch, but then unfortunately, you know, despite Saka getting an assist early on, he got subbed off early on, and then yeah, disappointingly, Gomez for Liverpool against Leeds conceded 2 goals against them. Just wanted 6 points from him. Couldn't even give me 2 points in the end. And then Tomiyasu against Nottingham Forest, I was just relieved that he got subbed off after the hour mark. But then, 6 points for him wasn't that great because I haven't got Jesus in my team. So Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka, okay, they got me 18 points. But then those that had Jesus, despite him not scoring, got a comfortable number of points there. So that really decimated my overall rank on Sunday afternoon. Coming on to the captaincy, again, when I found out that Haaland wasn't going to switch the armband, and interestingly, Martinelli was my vice captain as like a bus captain. Put it on Mohamed Salah. I thought he could get something against Leeds, who've just not been great of late, and then lo and behold, Leeds end up beating Liverpool. But 14 points from Mohamed Salah. I think his EO was very low as well. So had he managed to get another goal or an assist, that would have massively benefited me. And then the other players, like I said, Martinelli, 8 points, fairly content with that. Just the disappointment with Saka, and then knowing that when he got subbed off and his replacement had an absolute haul, that I've got no doubt that had Saka played the full match, he would have comfortably have got like double digits in terms of fancy points. And then Andreas Pereira against Everton, 3 points. I guess 3 points is better than one, so content with that. Massively disappointing with Mitrovic and Kane in game week 14, where against Everton, I know Everton have become like defensively more solid under Lampard, especially this season, but nothing for Fulham at all. And then Kane against Bournemouth, he's actually got a good record against Bournemouth. I recall him scoring a hat trick a few years back against them as well, but just 1 point in the end. 3 goals for Spurs and no goal involvement for Kane. Massively disappointing. Coming onto the bench, obviously I was going to bench Danny Ward against City. Haaland auto subbed onto the bench, and I think it was Andreas Pereira, who'd actually was my sub 1 initially, and then, yeah, Billing and Castagna on the bench, so 7 points on the bench there. But I've gotta yeah, I've gotta just show you my rank. My rank got absolutely hammered. 333k, I think, going into game week 14, and then 450k in the end. 59 points often doesn't equate to a deep dark red arrow, but in this case, it wasn't meant to be for me, which was a bit annoying. And I look back and think, what was it that really went against me in game week 14? And I I didn't realize how many people had De Bruyne in their teams, and that didn't help. Also, the fact I had sold Trippier as a make way option to get Foden in, that wasn't really, that wasn't great. But then what was the other player that I got was Tomiyasu, and the defense held up apart from Gomez, but a dark red arrow was inevitable when Trippier bangs, and Almiron, who's owned by a significant number of FPL managers as well, continued his streak with his 7th goal of the season. So yeah, it was disappointing. And I'm just looking at my bench again and the wild card that I had during that Man City and Arsenal blank, that very easily Billing could have been Almiron. Very easy. In fact, I had Almiron twice in my draft wildcard team before I chucked him out. And then I'm just trying to think, what was my logic with Billing? And Billing had a good run of form as well. And I just felt he was a bit of a differential, but it didn't work out. I really should have stuck with Almiron. And with Almiron, as a Newcastle United fan, part of me thought, is this too good to be true? Is he going to carry on scoring more goals? Because prior to prior to this season, he wasn't like a prolific striker. So yeah, as a fan, I'm ecstatic. We're hopefully going to challenge for a Champions League place with this current run of form. But yeah, from an FPL perspective, I've got to trust the Newcastle assets more, and I will be getting a Trippier back in, but that will be during the unlimited transfer phase. But yeah, like 59 points, got to take it on the chin. I'm just going to show my game week history. I hate like sharing red arrows. I hate looking at red arrows, but I'm just in this strange tailspin since game week 8, since the postponements and the state funeral. It's just gone completely like I was going to say downhill. It hasn't been completely downhill. I've just been stuck in this 300 to 400k vortex. Unfortunately, had the green arrow in game week 7. Well, I guess we all did because of the postponements. And yeah, the moment I sold Emerson for I sold Saliba for Emerson, it just went down, and I've not been like top 200k since then. But yeah, gradually clawed my way back. 301k, dropped back down. 371k, 333k. I just thought my team was set up quite well for game week 14, and then big red arrow. So it just goes to show that don't rely on those differentials too much and conform with the template. I'm now 60 points away from the top 10k, if I'm not mistaken. I think a top 10k finish for me is probably out of the question now for this season. And it's really a case of, what is it that I want to be? I mean, 3 top 10k finishes probably would have been quite hard to achieve like consecutively. So again, I want to do my best. I want to break into the top 200k, top 100k, top 50k, and then once I get there, and it might be later in the season if I even get that high, yeah, and then hope for the best. But the way this season is going, it's very different to the 2021 season and 21-22 season, where I just shot up into the top 20k after few game weeks. So it is now a real chore. It is a real struggle, and it means, unfortunately for me, I will be taking more risks. The risk of Trippier didn't work. The risk of Foden didn't work. The one thing that actually has been quite consistent for me is my captaincies, where that's I've not had that many fails. I've gone with the captain EO approach, as you know. I'm just bringing up my stats here actually for captaincy. Just give me one moment. I think the only time I've had a blank is when Haaland blanked against Liverpool, and also when Mohamed Salah blanked against Bournemouth in that 9-0 win. But if I can just get my captaincy information up just to remind myself. Where's it gone? Analyze your team. Compare. There we go. Captaincy analyzer. Just get it up now. In fact, I'll switch my screen so you guys can see it as well. In fact, whilst I'm switching screen, if you want to ask any questions, you can do so in the chat. Send me a DM or reply to my tweet on Twitter, and I'll answer at the end. But there we go. Just get the stats up right now. Oh, that's a video. That's a pop-up. Yeah, good thing you're not seeing this. Just circle of death here. What's going on? Should have had it ready beforehand. But yeah, with captaincy, I think it is 2 blanks, but I just want to make sure that is the case. In fact, whilst I'm bringing that up, I want to share something. I made a video earlier this week about Norway. Just did some research, and it turns out that Norway have got a higher institute of learning when it comes to FPL. So the video that I've made for it, it's only a 3-minute video. I've got it pinned at the top of the chat, and also you can see it on screen there. Look, the University of Oslo, Fantasy Football School, and then, in fact, should I play the video? No, I'll let you guys watch it. But they've got 10 hours of advanced FPL training. So if you fancy getting a free online course accredited by a higher institute in Norway, feel free to check out that video. It's at the top, and it's also in my YouTube channel. So, okay, this is not working. Great. In fact, switch back screen. So before I go to the preview, I'm going to go to the captaincy poll. I've stopped making my captaincy polling video. I used to do it on a weekly basis. I really did enjoy making it, but in terms of the amount of people that watched it, the numbers weren't adding up, unfortunately. And also it became so, boring that the answer was always the same. It was Captain Haaland. So yeah, it just didn't make sense to carry on. I might, revisit it when it becomes a pertinent issue where people want to know who to captain if there's a split captaincy. I'll probably revisit it then as a video, but as a weekly series, I won't be probably doing it for the time being. So yeah, I put up a poll anyway, best FPL captain for game week 15, and in this poll, because there's still a question mark over Haaland, I also chucked in, Haaland and or KDB against everyone else, and yeah, it was a 92% in favour of those 2 City assets. So if you haven't got De Bruyne, or if you'd sold Haaland, just keep that in mind that they'll be heavily captained. I've got no doubt that both players will have an EO that exceeds 100% plus. I'm looking at like alternative captains for game week 15. Is there anyone that I'd captain? I mean, to be honest with you, game week 15 doesn't even look that great in terms of like options really. Just there aren't that many standout fixtures. But I'm just looking at the from the captaincy side, it really is a Man City asset. You wouldn't want to captain an Arsenal asset against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Mohamed Salah's playing against Tottenham in London. Yeah, there's literally no options apart from those two. So yeah, their EOs will be like ridiculously high. So yeah, there's a captaincy poll, and I've got no doubt the vast majority of you will go and captain Haaland or De Bruyne. If I do buy De Bruyne, I would seriously consider captaining him. I've got no doubt that Haaland should start, but I'll have a think about it. It's a tough one because I don't want to fall further back, and I want to keep my captaincy record as well. So yeah, let's go straight into the preview. So game week 15 starts off with no lunchtime kickoffs, thankfully, straight into the 3 p.m.s, and Leeds against Bournemouth. Got two teams here who, well, Bournemouth actually had a poor start to the season. Leeds had a fantastic start to the season, and then the tables turned dramatically. And in Bournemouth's case, they've pulled themselves out of the relegation zone into 14th, and Leeds are now hovering just above it. Well, just 1 place below them in 15th, and also they've got the game in hand as well. It's kind of feels like a draw from Leeds. Obviously, they beat Liverpool, so they've got that feel good factor. Bournemouth have now lost 3 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to call it a Leeds win. I think Bournemouth will no doubt push Leeds fairly close, but yeah, that's a Leeds win there. And then yeah, City against Fulham. We know that Fulham can score goals, and we know that Fulham, who are 7th in the league, I keep on thinking because of the number of goals they've conceded that they're a lot lower, but 7th is fantastic for them. I want to say comfortable City win, but I've got no doubt that Fulham could even score, a goal or two in this match as well. So it's just a case of who will Haaland start? Will he score goals really? And just makes total sense having triple City in this fixture. And then coming on to Forest against Brentford. Forest, it's just been bottom of the table, mixed form of late. And then Brentford, who started off so well, they've only got 1 win in the last 4. You'd expect Tony to score in this sort of match. Still on the fringes of the England squad, perhaps he'd have to score. If he can't score against Forest, then is he going to get on the plane for England? Probably not. But I'm going to call that a Brentford win, purely because I just feel they have enough. And yeah, with Forest, I'm just 2 wins in 13. Oh, having said that, Brentford have only got 3 wins in 13. I'll call that a narrow Brentford win. Should be an interesting match. And then coming on to Wolves against Brighton. Obviously, with Brighton, Trossard turns into peak Eden Hazard whenever I don't own him. And then with Wolves, they're in the bottom 3. I think they've not won in their last 3 games. I want to call that a Brighton win, probably be a tight win. Having said that, Brighton have lost. If we put like the stuff of Trossard to one side, they've actually lost 3 of the last 5 games, and one of those matches. Actually, I'm not going to say it wrong. Sorry, got it muddled up. But three losses in the last 5. I think they should have enough to beat Wolves, and the fact they actually smashed Chelsea is an interesting one as well. Potter against his old club. You're expecting him to put up more of a fight, but that was definitely a shock result. Coming on to Everton against Leicester. Leicester, who are still in the relegation zone despite picking up 2 wins in the last 3. Everton, who, despite losing 3 in their last 5, the fact that they can keep clean sheets is very interesting, just from an FPL perspective. I want to call that a draw. I feel that it could be a goalless draw, it could be a 1-1, but I kind of feel that they'll both cancel each other out. Coming on to Sunday, Chelsea against Arsenal. I think this is another litmus test fixture for Arsenal. If they want to maintain this shock title challenge, then they have to get some sort of result against Chelsea. And with Chelsea, who've now not won in their last 3 games, they'd want to get a positive result in this match. I feel that both teams will put up a fight. I'm going to call it an Arsenal win purely because of their overall form since August. And I think that if they are to carry on their form, they have to win these sorts of matches. And I think they just might have enough in the tank, especially after Chelsea got absolutely hammered against Brighton last weekend. And then Villa against United. Of course, United had the Europa League commitments on Thursday night, which never helps. But then Villa, who just been quite bizarre after Gerrard got sacked, they had that win straight off the bat and then got absolutely hammered by Newcastle United. I've got no idea what Villa team will turn up on Sunday, but I'm calling that United win. Just seems like they should have enough there and just don't know what's happening with Villa at the moment. Southampton against Newcastle. Newcastle, who are now 4th in the league. That's 4 wins in 5. Fantastic form. And then Southampton, who are 17th in the league. I know that historically Newcastle aren't that good on their travels in the Premier League. I just feel that this team is very special. It's very different. They've got momentum on their side, and I want to call that a Newcastle win. Even though it'll be a challenging match down on the south coast, they should have more than enough in their stockroom. They should have more than enough to beat Southampton. And then coming on to West Ham against Palace. Again, West Ham, who 13th in the league, and Palace are 10th in the league. Again, West Ham, I kind of feel that with Europa League, I know they rotate their players as well. On paper, West Ham should beat Palace, but I'll call that a draw because I feel that the Europa League factor, I'm not sure how many of those Europa League players will start on Sunday, probably not that many, but I think there might be enough there for some tired legs, and I think Palace should just about match them potentially. And then coming on to the final fixture for Sunday, which is a late afternoon kickoff, that's Spurs against Liverpool. Absolute must-win match for both clubs, in fairness, especially Liverpool, who are now 9th in the league, haven't won their last 2 matches. Okay, Spurs, granted, they've won 3 of their last 5, but they've lost 2 of their last 3. They definitely would want to get some sort of positive result in this match. It's in fairness, it's more of a must-win for Liverpool than it is for Spurs. I feel that they'll cancel each other out. That as much as Liverpool would want to win this match, I feel that they wouldn't want to lose this match either. And of course, they got that fantastic result against Man City not that long ago in the league. But I feel that, they'll just cancel each other out. Purely because this Liverpool team missing key players and something isn't right. Obviously, we say it time and time again that the void that attack has without Mane, it's definitely being felt. And then, Salah isn't the same this season. And then you've got all these youngsters who are stepping up to the plate as well. Injuries with Diaz and Jota not being available. It's not the same Liverpool. So the best they could hope for is a draw. I think they'll be lucky to get a draw. And if Klopp does lose this fixture badly, then, goodness knows what's going to happen to him or how much more time will he have. He will essentially be on borrowed time, but just can't see them sacking him, of course, but it would definitely be food for thought if Liverpool fail to win in the remaining 2 Premier League games before the World Cup. And I've just realised I wasn't sharing the screen. My apologies for those fixtures. So let me just go back on the previous screen, just so you see the fixtures. There we go. So yeah, just scroll back up. There we go. That's all the fixtures that I was talking about. And in terms of my own transfer planning for game week 15, ideally I wouldn't have wanted to take another -4 so soon after um, uh, the -4 that I took a couple of weeks back, but I think I might have to. Just looking at the team as it stands right now, I've got, okay, exclude the 2 City players, got 3 players away to Chelsea, got 2 players away to Man City, Salah away to Tottenham. Yeah, a lot of away games or tricky home games. I think I will have to. I don't have to -4, but then I look at the sub options: Andreas away to City, Gomez away to Tottenham, and then Tomiyasu's orange flagged against Chelsea. Probably won't even start that match. So if I want to try something different and be proactive in game week 15, I probably will have to take a -4. But then I'm thinking, is a -4 really worth it when unlimited transfers are just around the corner? Probably, yeah. Like for me, if I want to get De Bruyne in, he's home to Fulham, home to Brentford, then it's the World Cup. So if I was to -4, it's more like a -2, I guess. So probably could, justify it like that. But then I don't even have to -4 actually. I could just go Salah to De Bruyne, and then would I start billing against Leeds? I probably would. Would I start Martinelli and Saka? I probably would. But then I want Almiron, and if I was to get Almiron, it would be billing for a -4. I want some sort of Newcastle cover after selling Trippier for Foden not that long ago. So that would be a tricky one. I mean, can I justify selling Billing and Salah for De Bruyne and Almiron for a -4? Don't know. I'm just absolutely hooked on the way Almiron has been playing this season. He's been fantastic. So I'll see. It's a tough one. But yeah, Salah to De Bruyne. I'm just looking back at the season, and I was kicking myself. I was thinking, if only I jumped off Salah and got on De Bruyne so much more sooner, I would have unlocked funds first and foremost. But then I looked at the points difference, and actually, De Bruyne's got 81 points and Salah has 65 points. Obviously, 16 points is a massive difference, but it's not like a sliding doors moment. But I should have jumped on that sooner rather than later. But the problem I had at the start of the season was my City triple up was Edison, Cancelo, and Haaland, which basically locked me out from getting Foden and De Bruyne, which was a bit of a mistake. But it is what it is. And then, ironically, the moment I sell Edison, let me just get his stats up. Sold Edison, and then he got a 9-point haul, a 5-point haul. Okay, 5 point isn't a haul, but he's picking up the points all of a sudden after I'd got rid of him. But yeah, that was a mistake I'd made early on, and I couldn't justify a goalkeeper transfer. I probably could have. Had the postponements not happened in game week 7, City would have played Spurs away, and I actually was not considering, but I was ready to sell Edison for a budget goalkeeper. Probably would have been a Nick Pope or someone along those lines. And yeah, it didn't work out. Just postponements happened. Ended up didn't want to burn another transfer. Sold Saliba to Emerson and then got stuck in a tailspin. But yeah, it is what it is. So for me right now, looking at what's left of the remaining 2 game weeks. We're not even, it's even game week 16. It's not even halfway into the season, though. There's still 3 more game weeks after that before we can say we've passed the halfway mark. But I need to make sure that I don't slip further back. And it means that I can't take unnecessary risks. I need to conform back with a template. And there are certain players that I don't have. And Almiron is a template and bandwagon player right now. So is Trippier. So is De Bruyne. But I can't have all 3. Maybe I can have 2 of them come game week 15. But yeah, that's something I need to work out. A square peg in a round hole. So just hoping for the best there. So before I go on to the questions, just want to share this. As always, if you're able to like, comment, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. I had a look at my stats actually in terms of the number of people that view my content and the number of people that subscribe. Only 11% of people who watch my content subscribe to this channel. So if you can hit the subscribe button at the very least, I'd really appreciate that. And then you can like, and then you can comment, and then you can share. Just help me beat the algorithm by doing all of those things, please. So yeah, let's get straight into the questions. I see there's a lot of questions that have come in through the chat. Oh, there's my comments gone. There we go. I'm just going to go into my DMs as well for the questions. In fact, let me flip my screen back. So yeah, if you can do one of those things, I'd really appreciate it. Right. So coming on to first questions through my DMs. Do you have some sort of threshold or criteria for when you triple up on teams? Is it just based on form or something else? So I think it's a number of different things, especially if a team is on form and you can afford having a triple up, it makes total sense. So at the start of the season, you could fit triple City, triple Liverpool in your team without any issue. And that's what I actually did at the start of the season. So, and I had a good run of games as well. So that definitely comes into play. And talking of triple ups, I'm not on the Man City triple up right now, but if I get De Bruyne in, I've got Cancelo, De Bruyne, Haaland, and they're home to Fulham, home to Brentford for the remaining 2 games before the World Cup. So that definitely comes into my thinking process in terms of the opportunities to score as well as their form. Next question. I own both Haaland and De Bruyne. Who do you captain for game week 15? So you saw in the poll, 92% are considering captaining one or the other. So I would say this, that if you want the safe captaincy, if you're ranked very high, probably captain Haaland. But if you're upside chasing, you're willing to take a risk on captaincy, and I say risk with a small r, I would say that De Bruyne is definitely an option. He has to be. And if there's anything, we don't know how Haaland will respond straight after his fitness issue that he's had for the past week and a bit. So we don't know how fully fit he is. Is he going to play a full 90? Probably might start, but then it's a case of, what is he able to do? So that's what I'm contemplating. If I was to get De Bruyne in, I would seriously consider captaining him because I want to make up lost ground. But then if De Bruyne blanks and Haaland bangs, that's going to decimate my rank. So it's definitely food for thought. I would say that if you're, in a comfortable rank position, then definitely don't even contemplate captaining De Bruyne if you play it safely. Would you start Gabriel, Ben Mee, or Andreas as the 11th man in game week 15? So as we know, Arsenal are away to Chelsea, and then Ben Mee, if I remember correctly, if I get my memory right, he's away to Nottingham Forest, and then Andreas is away at the Etihad. I'd say definitely start Ben Mee. I know that Brentford's clean sheets, they've not kept any clean sheets in the past 2, but before that they'd kept 3 in the previous 4. If those are your options, definitely Ben Mee because it's Nottingham Forest. Would you start Geeta or Ward in game week 15? So that's a conundrum that I have at hand at the moment for my own team. I feel that with Everton, they struggled for goals at the start of the season because DCL wasn't available. They'd sold Richarlison, but then I think they've slowly begun to start scoring goals, albeit not in the previous game week. In fact, just having a quick look at Everton and the number of goals they scored, goals conceded, so 0. Just having a quick look here, 1 minute. So in their previous 3 games, previous 4 games, they didn't score in 3 of those games. So there is a high probability still that they could still blank in their upcoming games, especially against Leicester, who have improved defensively and seems quite remarkable. They only conceded 1 goal against Man City last Saturday, and then Bournemouth away as well. So of course, Everton doing really well for clean sheets now. That with 2 clean sheets in a row now, but just struggling for goals. So at the moment, from looking at my team, I would start Danny Ward, but then again, I've also got Geeta and Gehi in my team, so I'd probably end up starting Gehi regardless. So that's more out of necessity than as a viable starting option. So that's the situation that I'm at. I'd say on a probability basis, Ward might have a higher chance of keeping a clean sheet than Geeta in game week 15, but it's not. There's not a lot in it, to be perfectly frank. Right, next question. Tony and Salah to Haaland and Rashford with a -4. Is it worth it? So, Tony's playing Nottingham Forest next. I'd be very reluctant to sell him ahead of that match. Mohamed Salah against Tottenham, his EO's low. He's been blowing hot and cold. I could justify selling Salah. And you haven't got Haaland, so you want to bring Haaland back in and get Rashford in as well. Obviously, I'd say you need to get Haaland in, but I wouldn't want to sell Tony. But then, who are if you're listening in the chat, who are your other 2 strikers? Yeah, that's a tough one. You need to get Haaland in, absolutely, but try not to sell Tony. I'm guessing you might have Mitrovic. If you do, could be an option ahead of the World Cup break. So, next question. A long break is coming up. Do you have any advice for evaluating the season so far? How do I best evaluate my own performance? So, yeah, really good question. I would say, what is the yardstick that you're measuring success with when you play FPL? What is it that you're looking to achieve when playing FPL? So, I highly doubt the vast majority of FPL managers who are playing with a specific overall rank in mind are anywhere near their finishing rank at the moment. And if they are, what are the chances of them staying in that rank tier come game week 38? So it's really a case of determining where you want to be, how far away you are from that milestone. So in my instance, I want to be top 10k, 60 points away. If I somehow can find, it won't be these 2 game weeks, it might be after the World Cup. if I have like a fantastic double game week and another fantastic double game week, I could push close to that top 10k ranked tier once again. So it's, for me, it's like this early part of the season is about holding on. It's about trying to remain as close to the pack as possible. And obviously the pack has split up. People are on different strategies, or to use an F1 term, some people are on a one stopper, others are on a two stopper. So the strategies are stretching out now, and you're on your own. So, if you're aiming for a top 100k finish, which I'm sure the vast majority of FPL managers who take the game seriously aim for, you've just got to hope that if you are there or thereabouts ahead of the World Cup, then surely play it safe. And if you're very far away from that, then you just need to work out what risks are going to work to get you near step by step to those, towards that goal. I see we've got the course that I was mentioning from that Norwegian Institute. We've got some people have actually enrolled for it. So if you missed out, the link for that course is at the top of the YouTube chat, and it's also on my YouTube channel as well. So be sure to sign up to your 10 hours of advanced FPL training by our Norwegian experts, and it's all in English, so don't worry about that. How do you think Emery will impact Aston Villa's assets? Should we look at their defence from now on? So obviously, Unai Emery, he his his stint at Arsenal was relatively short. Okay, it wasn't super short, but it wasn't memorable, as Arsenal fans would say. I think it's too early to say because, like, Emery, I want to be careful when I say he is unproven in the Premier League. He hasn't achieved a lot. Obviously, he got Arsenal to a Europa League final, if I'm not mistaken. Don't say that wrong. But within the league, there isn't much that he's achieved. So I'm not automatically thinking, it's Unai Emery, the continental trophy winning champion. Oh, I better get triple Villa. So I think it's too early to say. I haven't studied what formations or strategies and tactics he's been using at his last club abroad. If he's like defensively sound, then perhaps we could consider getting the likes of Mings or Martinez in. I just remember watching Martinez at the start of the season, like live, literally at Selhurst Park, and he just seemed on edge. So if he can get the confidence of the defense back up and running again, I've got no doubt that confidence will permeate throughout the rest of the team. So if he can sort out that defense, then maybe some of those defensive assets can be an option once again, like they were during the 2021 season. And Martinez almost broke the FPL goalkeeping points record. So not that the potential is there, the pedigree is there, they're capable of doing it, but can he get the best out of them? And it's probably too early to say at the moment. So another question, what's the biggest difference between this season and the last 2 or 3 seasons? Salah was like Haaland, right? A perma-captain. I think there's two things at this early stage which are very different from this season to the previous two. And I had a good previous 2 seasons, so I can speak with a lot of authority on this. That first of all, Mohamed Salah, he was like a perma-captain option for literally not the pre. I'm gonna be careful here. He was the perma-cap, like for the final half of last season, his perma-captain status waned. But let's just say for the previous season and a half, he was pretty much the perma-captain option. Of course, you had like the likes of Aguero still knocking about. You had an Aubameyang as an option from time to time. Kane and Son obviously as well. He wasn't like super high EO like Haaland as he has been on a weekly basis this season. But yeah, he was pretty much the perma captain. But I think the thing that's fundamentally different this season to the previous 2 seasons is the fact that the prices dropped for every player pretty much, or they remained static, or they didn't increase massively. And that meant that the template um, became more affordable, that literally everyone could own the template from game week 1. And what it effectively meant was that FPL addicts have had more of competition in their upper ranked tiers than they've had previously. So I think that's been problematic. And I'm just looking, at how I've done this season as well. And I look at the captaincy choices. I've got them pretty much spot on 90. Well, all the time. I'd say that I've chosen logically who was the best captain on paper, and it's pretty much worked out 95% of the times. But then I look at how I conformed to the template early on, and that worked to a degree. But then because the template has become so much more easier to get, it then means the fine margins between finding out who the upside player is that you've got that the other person doesn't have. So early on for me, didn't have Martinelli. I had Rashford. Martinelli did far more better than Rashford and he was cheaper. So I lost out straight away. And other instances, like some people didn't go for Martinelli, they went for Saka, who was more expensive. And obviously, Saka has improved his form of late as well. So 50-50 calls this season, they almost seem to be a lot more um, like make or break. I think that's definitely been telling absolutely this season. So that's is that a good thing or a bad thing that FPL has become more competitive in the upper ranked tiers? I guess probably I think from my side it hasn't been because I've been pushed further back for the time being. But it just makes it more interesting. It means that this season you have to think more. And okay, captaincy, we have been on autopilot for a significant amount of it, but the other positionings that we have, like some people have tripled up on Newcastle defense and it's worked out for them recently. Others have gone for like triple Arsenal attacked and it's worked out for them recently. So I think these like 50-50 calls, they become more amplified, so to speak. And maybe that will be not just the story for this first like 45% of the season, it might be the case for the whole season. Um, I'm just looking forward to the template opening up a bit more so that there is more diversity. Probably might happen around the double game week periods in the early part of the the new year. That it could happen then, but for the time being, if you haven't conformed to the template, you're going to struggle, and that's the reality. Next question. If you were asked to lecture at the Norwegian FPL course, what would you focus on and why? I think that's an easy one for me. It would be about effective ownership. I think effective ownership on that course at the top of the YouTube chat was one of the modules. So I would, with a passion, talk about effective ownership if they invited me. But I'm not Norwegian, and it seems like all of the lecturers are Norwegian. So unfortunately, they won't invite me unless they gave me some sort of like visiting um, like professorship or something to talk talk to them about. But I need to do a TED talk one day about effective ownership and how it changed my life in FPL. But that's a talk for another time. What are your views on the Twitter debate about the FPL deadline? Should it stay as it is, moved forward to kickoff, or back to like 3 hours before kickoff? I just kind of feel that people are moaning about nothing. I know, people lost out a few minutes before the deadline on Saturday, and then there's this fear of, oh, there'll be leaks if it's like right near the. Oh, some people have said if you have it literally a minute before the first kickoff, then we're all on a level playing field. I don't think that is the case actually, because there are people who are based on the other side of the world who, let's just say, the Saturday morning deadline that we have, it's just within like a reasonable hour for them. So if the deadline shifted, let's say to the 3 p.m. kickoffs, if there was, if there was no lunchtime kickoff, like there is no lunchtime kickoff this Saturday, they'd have to stay awake until like 3 or 4 a.m. just for the deadline. Whereas now it's, a lot earlier. So this talk of pushing it to the like first kickoff and that will solve everything. No, it won't. It'll cause more problems. And FPL towers, I feel that they're trying to level the playing field, and as beneficial as it would be getting it right to kick off, some people will lose up because it's effectively the bedtime or way past their bedtime. And one of the reasons why FPL changed the deadline from an hour to an hour and a half was for that precise reason, that leaks were happening even then. But then look what's happened. Despite the deadline being an hour and a half, we all got leaks before the deadline. So, you could push it for a 3-hour buffer, you'll still get leaks. Like, someone saw X player on a Friday night in a hotel or having a doner kebab, and they leak it to everyone. So I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think that pushing it right to the first kickoff is going to solve everything. It'll just cause more headaches. And I think that FPL would be reluctant to do that because it will affect people in certain time zones. And they'll say, why is it that now it's way past, for some it's like, oh, it's, I'm awake then with the current deadline, but I'm knocked out. And some people will complain about that. There's no perfect solution here. I think that pushing it 3 hours before seems a bit extreme as well. I think an hour and a half before the deadline sounds about right. And if we get the odd leak or two, so what? Just need I think this debate's already happened because the website crashed and unfortunately some people lost out. But hey, you didn't sell Foden for Saka. So, well, it wasn't a bad move, I guess, but it was only 4 points. Just coming on to some more questions here. So we've got Andy Martin in the chat. Good evening, Andy. Wilson and Haaland up front. I have no idea what that means, sir, but yeah, if Wilson is fit, I heard that he apparently had the flu and then he was fine. I have no idea, but a million managers have bought Wilson for game week 15, so it'll be a blow for them if he doesn't start. I was going to say, Andy, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but if you do fancy a chat, I'll probably be on for another 10 or 15 minutes. Just send me a DM and I'll send you a link if you fancy a chat. If you don't, it's completely fine as well. Another question. If you could make 1 or 2 changes to FPL, what would they be? That's a good question. I think I've talked about this. Like, in terms of changes, like it could be like the most simplest of things. One change I would do, which I don't think is even too difficult to ask for, actually. It's a very simple change. It's a very boring change. If you go to the transfer screen and let's say you want to transfer out a player, and then you select confirm transfer, which I'm doing right now, just to remind myself, it highlights the option for, do you want to use your free hit? And previously it used to be like in yellow, now it's like in bright green or bright purple. I don't want to click it right now. I don't want to accidentally do. In fact, let me do it just to make sure, because let me just try and do my transfer for this week actually. But let's see. Oh, what's happened here? Give me one moment, please. Right. And I actually have messaged FPL about this on Twitter, and to be fair to them, they actually got back to me last season saying, "Oh, we'll look into it," and then they never did anything about it. So I'm doing my transfer now. Make transfers. Here we go. So if you choose your transfer and you click on make transfer, it brings up this screen where it's asking you to confirm your transfers. But annoyingly, why is it that play free hit is like the highlighted button and confirm transfers and change transfers are at the bottom? Like, from a UX perspective, surely confirm transfers should be highlighted, because you're not going to play your free hit like as a default, right? Your default is you want to make you're selling player X for player Y because you want to do your transfers. And I think before it used to be wildcard used to be highlighted. The option is change transfers as well. But there's two things they can do here. They should remove the highlight for play free hit, or they should highlight confirm transfers. And it's really fiddly, especially imagine those managers who are making a transfer like they were on Saturday morning, and then they accidentally click on play free hit. It's just so easy to make that like mistake. I thankfully haven't made that mistake yet, but just from a UX perspective, if anyone from FPL hears this message, which you won't because you don't tune in, remove that highlight, or at the very least, put confirm transfers at top, because it's really fiddly, it's really dangerous, and your accidents are waiting to happen with that. So yeah, that's one thing I do. That's just a boring UX thing. In terms of new chips, there's something that I proposed a few years ago, and I think this should really happen, and I think it will boost engagement. And I call this the mulligan chip. So let's say you have a horrific game week. Let's say you scored, like, the average is 50 points, you scored 20 points, right? I think FPL should offer some sort of lifeline. They won't do it, but some sort of lifeline that basically says, you've had a bad game week, we're here to help you. This mulligan chip will ensure that whatever the average was for that game week, you will score that. And obviously, you can't activate this chip before the deadline. It would be something, and they probably can't because of the coding and it's too complicated, but a chip that you can activate after the deadline, after the scores have happened. And let's just say an hour before, well, an hour after the final kickoff, you've scored badly, you can activate the mulligan chip, and let's say your 20 points then becomes the average, and let's say the average is 50 points, is giving you that lifeline. And I feel that, firstly, from a mental health perspective, I think that's brilliant, because it will just ensure that people aren't stressing out over a dark red arrow on a Monday morning. But also, it will boost engagement, because there might be casual managers who lose out, especially like they do around Christmas time, because of the fixture rush. And let's just say one bad score might kill it for them. But this mulligan chip, it just keeps them going, and it's just a lifeline. I think that's not too much to ask for. Don't think it's that hard to incorporate into the game as well. But I think that's definitely something that they should consider. And then, there's other things I could mention as well, which I'm not gonna list out, but something that can boost engagement, I think, is really important. And having said that, yeah, people moaned about the prices going up and up and up, and then look what's happened. The templates become so easy to afford, and all of a sudden, um, it's okay. It's benefited some managers, but it's not. It's been problematic for other managers. So yeah, coming on to the next question. Who are your top 3 non-Haaland players to watch or target for this game week? So non-Haaland, I'm assuming you want a replacement striker. I don't understand what you fully mean by that, but just if you could give me some more context on that question, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, I don't understand that question, like, as non-Haaland players. I mean, to target non-Haaland, I would say Kevin De Bruyne. If you don't have him, get him in, absolutely. That's one player. That's the one player that sticks in my mind right now. Almiron on the radar, and Trossard. And by coincidence, I think they are some of the highest bought players for this game week as well. All right, clarification is top 3 players most likely to haul in game week 15. De Bruyne number 1. I have to say he's probably the most likely to haul out of the non-Haaland camp, and I couldn't really answer for 2 or 3. Trossard against Wolves. I don't know, can he haul against Wolves? I think he can definitely get something against Wolves, but it's just game week 15 is not really that good from fixture perspective. It's really like too many difficult fixtures to say, apart from the City one, who could potentially haul. Okay, so the question is Tony to Mbeumo or Andreas to Somerville. Oh, okay, sorry, my apologies. So Tony is suspended for the Forest game. I did not know that, and just shows you how much I've been following Brentford of late. So, okay, obviously the fact Tony is suspended, yeah, you have to get rid of him. Can't. I wish I could edit out that bit where I was saying, got to keep Tony in the stream. So I can't cut that out. It's all live, unfortunately. Are you able to go from Tony to Jesus? I think that could be an option potential. I'll say he's got Chelsea away, hasn't he? Your perfect move would have been Tony to Wilson, but then Wilson's yellow flagged. Just trying to think who else could you get in that price point, and there isn't really anyone. Mbeumo for Tony. Yeah, it's a punt. It's a punt move, definitely. But I'm looking at his 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 goal scoring this season. He's only scored 2 goals. He hasn't scored in since game week 6. So that doesn't really like excite me in getting Mbeumo over Tony. And I honestly don't know who else I could recommend. Oh, you're 0.1 million short for Wilson. Who else is there? Just looking at all the strikers there, just because the fixtures are not that great. And you'd want to obviously buy a player who could get something for you in game week 16 as well. Like Scamacca, he's home to Palace, home to Leicester in the next 2 game weeks, but his form is just completely non-existent. So I wouldn't want to recommend him, to be perfectly frank. Calvert-Lewin, perhaps, could be a punt option, but this is it. The problem is that once you go beyond Mitrovic, you go beyond Jesus, you go beyond Haaland, you go beyond Kane. It's just like a litany of differential strikers. You could literally take your pick. If you really wanted a punt, I'm not sure if. Oh, hold on. I said Calvert-Lewin, but then he's more expensive than Wilson, so you can scratch him out. Is Bamford fit? No, he's not had the minutes of late. Just going through this list, there aren't really that many options for you, I'm afraid, mate. Dominic Solanke, who's he got? Leeds. You know what? Dominic Solanke, he's not the worst of options. Save you some money as well. Perhaps that's one worth considering. Just trying to get my captaincy analyzer up. Let me just check if there's any more questions in the DMs. I think that's all the YouTube questions done. So, what are your thoughts on buying Trossard? Oh, don't. Oh, no. Yeah, you didn't have to bring him up. I think Trossard is Trollard for me, to be honest with you. I was watching him at the start of the season. He impressed. And then the one fixture, you expect him to get something against Forest, he blanks. So he's not in my good books. I feel that if you want Trossard at 6.9 million, you've got Almiron. If you haven't got Almiron, consider getting Almiron before you get Trossard, to be perfectly frank with you. just because he's over 1 million less than Trossard. And with Trossard, he goes through these like spells. So like the first 4 games, he only scored 1 goal, and then game week 10, 11, 12 he blanked, and then he scored against City and Chelsea in the last 2. So just seems a bit random. It seems like the easier fixtures. Yeah, he got a hat-trick against Liverpool as well. Scored at Anfield, scored at the Etihad, and then scored against Chelsea at home. He's got this strange run of form against trickier opposition. Wow. So yeah, if you are looking for someone who is a like for like replacement and Trossard fits the bill, fair enough. But I would really say consider getting Almiron in. Similar goal scoring stats, but his points per million is significantly different. In fact, I'm going to try and share this on my screen actually. I do like looking at the points per million because it shows you, who gives you bang for your buck essentially. So if I can just get this up, all players, value by season, and without looking, I know it's Almiron by a huge distance. Look at that. Almiron and Trippier, 13.9, 13.1. That's points per million. And then Henderson, surprisingly for Forest, he hasn't kept many clean sheets, but then when he does get some sort of fancy return, he gets like a huge haul there. So he's up there. And then you got Raya, he's up there as well. Jumped too quickly. Hold on, let me just get this right. Messed it up. Value season. There we go. Let's go slowly. Raya, got Fabian Schär. You've noticed 3 Newcastle players have already popped up. 4 Newcastle players because they're so low in value, but they've just got a lot of fancy returns. And no doubt there would have been managers in the previous game week who had Trippier, Almiron, and Wilson who absolutely loved it. And that combination, if Wilson is fully fit, will continue to rise even after the World Cup as well. And then you've got the Arsenal players, White and Saliba, of course, Andreas Pereira, Castagna, Xhaka, got Sarr, then me, Pickford. I'm going to go right until it gets to the 10 mark. Again, the goalkeepers, for points per million, the goalkeepers and budget defenders across all teams will always show up just because of the value that they provide. Trossard at 10.6, Gross surprisingly at 10.5, despite him not being as prolific with his FPL points and start of the season. You got Ward surprisingly, and like the interesting thing with Danny Ward actually is just looking at getting his stats back up. In fact, I'll show them on screen here. So he's up there for points per million, but if we just remember, Danny Ward, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, 2 points, 0. It took him until game week 9 to get a fantasy return, that Monday night match. Game week 9. And then from game week 9, got on 11, 12, 13. So it's interesting, despite blanking until game week 9, even he's up there. He's got, like, was it 10.5 per million? Botman's up there. Got Gabriel, Cody, and Dallo. Sometimes, you've got another Newcastle player, Dan Burn. Wow. You've got Martinelli at 10.0. I'm going to stop there now for points per million. But it just goes to show, especially with certain players, I think in the case of Henderson, you could get like a mega haul in like 2 games and then blank in the games between and after, and you'll still have a high points per million because of the low value at the start. But it's just food for thought that these players that offer great points per million, they offer exceptional value. And anyone who's got Trossard, Trippier, Almiron in their teams will be absolutely loving it. And I've seen triple ups with Pope, Trippier, Almiron or Wilson. You know, fair play to you. Next question. I'm currently standing at 1.1 million. Can I still finish in the top 10k? Well, I was like lamenting at the fact that I'm 400k and I'm 60 points off the top 10k. It's not like it's not it's a tough one. I think you're gonna have to shoot up the ranks really fast. You're gonna have to take an incredible amount of risks to go from 1.1 million to top 10k. It's going to take it's not something that can be done overnight. It will take a lot of good game weeks. You'll probably have to rely on a fantastic double game week. You literally need to nail all your chips. You need to nail your wild card. You need to nail your double game weeks and hope for very small red arrows and massive green arrows. And then maybe, just maybe, you might finish in the top 10k this season. And I'm just saying that for someone who's 400k at the minute. It's going to be really tough. And I know at the start of the season, teams were bunched up and, you know, like 6k compared to 6 million, the gap was a lot closer, but you're going to have to do it in increments. And you will have to take more risks than someone who is in the top 10k right now. And I can see Neil in the chat there, who said he was 6.2 million in game week 6 and he's 1.1 million now, which is fantastic. And I hope that you can carry that journey on. But like between game week 6 and 15, that's 9 game weeks, and you're incrementally making your way up. And I hope that carries on. But yeah, if you're 1.1 million, you want to finish in the top 10k, you've got to look for the upside assets who are going to be the next bandwagon and get on them fast. You've got to hope that there's a differential in your team. And I hate the word differential. I hate having differentials in my own team, but you need those players who will ultimately provide you that variation and difference. And I hate the word variation as well, but I want to use variance because had Saka not been injured, and those people like myself who sold Foden for Saka, instead of 4 points, we could have had 19 points. But it is what it is. You need luck on your side as well. That's what I'm getting at. That if you can get the luck on your side and make sure that almost every call that you make between now and the end of the season is spot on for the key decisions, then maybe you will finish in the top 10k. But it's hard. I'm saying it's hard when I'm 400k. And for me, it's like I'm not even looking for a rank boost right now between now and the World Cup. I just want to just like claw on to 400, 300k, which sounds horrible considering where I was this time last season. But just hoping for the best, really, and seeing what I can do just to hold on and then reassess and attack once the fixtures resume after the World Cup during the Boxing Day period. And yet, it is about captaincy choice too. And it's interesting that captaincy has worked really well for me. I'm trying to get this up on. Hold on. Oh, can I share my screen now? Oh, I think it's working now. So the captaincy analyzer on Premier Fantasy Tools, I'll bring that up. So I think as a tracked FPL manager, my captaincy choices this season, I think they're among the. No, let me just get this up. Why isn't this working? Please work. I won't. It's working. I'll share my screen now. Perfect. So yeah, you have to nail captaincy, and maybe you have to go against EO if you're taking risks. But in my instance, I've been very safe when it comes to captaincy, and it's actually worked. So just wait for it to appear on screen. So I've got 228 points from captaincy. So my captains are averaging 17.5 points per game week. So can't complain with that. Success rate, 77%. And then coming on to my best and worst captaincies, you can see here, I was on this fantastic run from game week 1 to 10, where I only had one blank. And even the blank that I had was Mohamed Salah with a clean sheet against Bournemouth. And then after that period, okay, Haaland blanked against Liverpool. Then Slav blanked again. I'm trying to remember what was it in game week 12. If I rack my brain correctly, what happened in game week 12? I think that's when City and Arsenal had their blank. I think, yeah, Salah had West Ham, and then he blanked, unfortunately. And I think he was low owned, so kind of gutted he didn't get anything then. But only 3 blanks out of 14. I really can't complain. It's the captaincy approach has worked, and I've been fortunate that my captaincy picks have been pretty much spot on for the vast majority of times in the previous 2.5 seasons, and it's because I take this Captainio approach. But even with myself right now, because of where my rank is, okay, I'm not way back, but I'd have to take more risks if I want to make up lost ground. Just want to know in the chat, how have you done for captaincy? In fact, I'll pop this link in the chat and test it out yourself. Just pop your team ID in the field above, and then you can work out what your captaincy points and percentages are as well. Before I continue, I just want to switch screen. As always, if you're able to like, comment, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. As I mentioned early on in the stream, only 11% of those people who view my YouTube videos subscribe to my channel. So if you could subscribe as well, I'd really appreciate that, and the other stuff as well. And on that note, I'm just going to look at my final questions in my DMs, and I'll call it wraps for this stream. But I think there are a few more questions that have come in through the chat. In fact, before I switch, I've created this new header on Twitter, and your feedback on that will be great as well. Let me know what you think. Is that me going off brand, or do you like it? The new header, FPL hints in lights. I've actually got that as a video, and I'll probably use that as an intro to my videos as well. But let me know of your feedback on that new header. Just experimenting with it at the moment. Right. Oh, got another question in the YouTube chat. I'm replacing Gomez, but for who? Dallo or Zuma? See, West Ham, we mentioned, they've got 2 good games coming up. I say good, Palace, and was it Brentford? I can't remember now. And then you've got United. Just trying to remember who United have got in their next 2. Just give me 1 moment. Okay, away to Fulham, away to Villa. I would say it's 50-50 really. You could literally toss a coin. I'd say Dallo because of the attacking option could probably be more of an option. But then yeah, Zuma's got 2 home games and Dallo's got 2 away games. So it's a 50-50. But yeah, that is a real 50-50. Just because they've got 2 away games, 2 home games, and it could go either way. And yeah, Dallo's on 4 yellows. That's a good shout. I think Zuma might be the more boring pick, but could be potentially a more safer pick. Another question in the YouTube chat. My overall rank is 64k and my goal is top 10k. First season playing FPL. Brilliant. What would your advice be for achieving that overall rank at the end of the season? So first of all, congratulations, considering it's your first season. I think you're Norwegian as well, aren't you? From your chat at the start. So you must have enrolled yourself onto that course and have benefited from it. So congratulations in doing that. And the fact you're 64k right now, you're in a very strong position. And I would say that like you should be giving me advice on what to finish, but I would say this though, that if it's your first season, you often would probably take more risks in your debut season than you would once you become an FPL addict. So you've got to weigh up, are the risks worth the reward? And I don't want to influence your mind too much, because I remember, I finished 110th in the world and I took a huge amount of risks. And I wouldn't want to prevent you in taking risks that could potentially catapult you up the rankings. But at the same time, if you have too many risks and you don't have any like safe options, then you could, fall back down the rankings. So I would say this to you, that play the game. Well, my saying is play the game the way it should be played. Don't let the game play you. That is my saying. And take from that what you will. I don't want to influence you. You've tuned into my streams quite a few times this season. You know what my philosophy is in terms of like gameplay and captaincy and also risk taking. And I'm in a situation where I'm taking more risks now than I would have because of my overall rank. It's not, I'm not in a terrible place right now, but I just want some sort of traction to come out of this rank tier that I'm stuck in right now. So good luck with your season and enjoy it. I want to really say it, because if you become an FPL addict, you might become a content creator in the future, or you become like the most boring FPL manager on the planet. You might not enjoy it after this season. So I would say honestly enjoy it. And I know Norwegians love watching their Premier League football. I know that Norwegians love their mini leagues. So just, have your like collate your own sources of truth. And I want to say this actually, that within the FPL Twitter sphere, there are many like points of there's how do I say this? There are multiple points of failure, and there isn't a single source for truth, but there are many points for failure, if that makes sense. So I think I've messed up what I was saying. I can't think right now, but rely on the sources. Maybe you might outgrow this stream and think I'm talking absolute nonsense, and you want to listen to some other FPL dinosaur or FPL hat or something. You might want to listen to someone else. I would say that if you have a very specific way of playing and it's working, play it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I do believe in having like a consistent approach to the game, and also what is it that you want from playing FPL? For some people, it's just about having fun. They don't care where they finish. I've had some seasoned managers who said, "Oh, we didn't know what overall rank used to mean until we became addicts." So, you might not be playing for overall rank. You might be playing to win your mini league, and a top 2.5 million overall rank could get you that. But it's ultimately what you want from the game, really. And yeah, just this season, enjoy it and all the best. That's all I can say. I don't want to influence you other than that, really. But the problem we have within like the FPL Twitter, or I say Twitter sphere, the FPL like content industry, there's too much saturated content. There's too many personalities who are saying the same thing, and I like to talk about FPL on an unfiltered basis. I like to speak my mind. I think that's the other problem that we have, that there aren't enough managers who speak their mind. I am an independent person. I am an amateur FPL manager. And I guess that's partly why I can speak my own mind in that respect. And what I do know is there is a very specific way you can play the game and do well in it, as I have done over the previous 2 seasons. And there are multiple ways to play the game. The riskier, there are riskier ways which you could have a go at, and you could be even higher ranked, but then it might not work every time. So it's just worth factoring in as well, how you play. But ultimately, FPL is a fantasy game. You don't control the players. It's not esports. And it should be a form, in my opinion, it should be a form of escapism. And it shouldn't really affect your day-to-day life. You shouldn't be annoyed that you've got a red arrow on a Monday morning. There's more to life than FPL. And if you're able to enjoy FPL, and if you're able to have fun playing FPL, if you're able to do well in FPL, and if you're able to recognize that there's more to life than FPL, then maybe that's what we have to aim for. Maybe that's what we have to like aim towards, even though we might not get it. So I guess that's what I have to say on that front. Sorry, I've just got a few more questions that come in. Oh, got a reminder. I'll probably wrap it up in 3 minutes, just going straight into the questions. Hi, Ash. I've enrolled onto the Norway advanced course. Thank you so much. You're welcome. You're welcome. For those in the chat who've missed out, you can enroll on the Norwegian course by going. In fact, it's right at the top of the chat. I'm going to paste it right in the bottom. Let me just get this up. Hold on, am I able to do it? Let me show it. Oh, will it let me highlight? No, I can't highlight it, unfortunately. In fact, I can. Yeah, I can paste it. There we go. So that's already 3 people that I've seen on the stream that have enrolled onto the 10-hour fantasy football course. So post that there. It's in the chat. If you missed it at the start of the stream, I explained how in Norway they've got this intensive 10-hour course. It's all in English, so don't worry about not speaking Norwegian. And I've just posted it in the chat once again. I'm just gonna hide. And yeah, I've just some housekeeping. So next week will be the final stream before the World Cup. I'll probably get a guest on the show as well, because I find it really challenging when I'm speaking myself and fiddling with the tech stuff as well. But yeah, I'll get another speaker on. I did have a couple that I wanted to join me tonight, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. So yeah, just I think it'll be nice having a guest on once again. We've had some really good guests, in fairness, on our streams this season so far. So could be an Elite 1000 manager. It could be a friend of mine on FPL Twitter. Who knows? But I'll definitely look to get a guest on for next week. And if I'm not mistaken, if I just check really quickly, so make sure it is a Saturday kickoff for game week 16 as well. So just checking it now. Yep, there's no Friday night match, so it'll definitely happen next Friday. And there you have it. Just the questions. Any more questions in the DMs? There's still a couple more, but I think I'm going to wrap up. But we're coming up to an hour and a half. So before you head off, don't shut your windows. I'm gonna do my little spiel again. As always, if you're able to like, share. Oh, I've got it wrong. Where's it gone? If you're able to like, comment, share, or subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm not just saying that for the sake of it. It genuinely helps the algorithm. If you do one of those things, if you do all of those things, it will massively help me. If you've ever come on my stream, you've not done any of those things, I'd really appreciate it. Spread the word. And yeah, I don't want your money. I don't want anything else. I just want you to do one of those 4 things on the screen. And apart from that, may your arrows be green. May your mind be serene. Take care, and all the best, everyone. Bye.